went to bed and dreamed up the internet. This was the show he had in mind. Welcome to the Fifth Mascot. There's Gaffer, there's Mr. Redleg, there's Mr. Red, there's Rosie Red, and then there are us with Mike Canan and Mr. Satin, Ken Broo. So happy you're with us again on WCPO.com as we tackle all things Cincinnati Reds. Let's get to it. Reds and Cardinals this week. Not a bad series against the Cardinals. Not a bad series at all. Jason Marquis on the mound for a win. Cueto loses a game he should have won. And then the 11th inning loss that had Iglesias on the mound. So 1 out of 3, and quite possibly it could have been a sweep, Mike, had the pitching been just a little bit better.
Yeah, I think, it's tough in that game, too. Wacko pitched a great game, so that's a tough one to chalk up and say that one could have been. I mean, it was a good, close game, but the third game was very winnable. I was at that game. I mean, there's no way they should have lost that game.
I thought the thing about all 3 of those games was, and you're right about the Cueto loss, but Cueto deserved better. Cueto should be 2-0 right now.
Totally.
If they can get out of Marquis what they got out of Marquis, if they can get that out of him till maybe the middle of June, July, and then they can bring Iglesias up and then have him start, I think they're in pretty good shape with that particular spot in the starting rotation.
Yeah, I mean, it's a roller coaster right now. It's up and down right now. We started off so good, kind of dropped a couple of series, but yeah, I think we're right there, We need some pitching for sure, stepping it up.
They have to get what they got out of Marquis on Friday night, not what they got out of Marquis last night. 4 innings, 4 runs. I mean, that's not going to cut it.
Yeah.
That's 5th starter material maybe, but
Right.
not when you're a contender or want to be a contender.
Well, if they can't get that out of him, then they're going to have to bite the bullet with Iglesias, and I don't think they really want him up here right now, unless he has to start. But I'll take 5 innings, 3 earned runs from Iglesias, and I mean, my goodness, 2 out of 8, 2 for 18 with runners in scoring position. That's horrible.
Yeah, where's our bats at? You know, the middle guys, the big guys, they start off hot, but they're not there right now. You know, I mean, you got BP, he's doing all right, but you know, Votto's doing good, but you know, those guys, Bruce, where's he at? You know, so we need some big bats down there in the middle of the lineup.
The first week it was Votto and Frazier. Those were the only guys who were hitting.
Right.
Hamilton really hasn't hit yet. Hamilton is kind of interesting. You know, the last I checked his stats, his on-base percentage was pretty good, but he wasn't hitting.
Yeah.
So if nothing else, maybe he's at least a patient hitter.
Yeah, I mean, he's getting on base, or at least he was until last night when I think he took an offer. And that brought his on-base percentage down pretty quickly with a small sample size. But, you know, he's got to get on base, and then the rest of the guys have to continue to hit. My hope is, I mean, in general, batting average with runners in scoring position tends to be a stat that evens itself out. And so they're not hitting now. Hopefully that will even itself out. But, I mean, you saw last year's team, they never really did hit with runners in scoring.
Has he ever shown discipline at the plate?
The disembodied voice belonging to Matt Lukin, who continues to work the controls back there with his cast of characters.
Mike and Brian.
Hola.
But yeah, does Hamilton, have we ever seen Hamilton have discipline at the plate? I mean, he's excitable, and you like, if he gets on, everybody's just waiting for that to happen, but he hasn't hit, you know, 250 for, you know, 2 weeks in a row yet, has he?
No, and he had the problem he had the end of last season, too, where he couldn't hit.
If you put him at the 7th or 8th hole, people would go bonkers at that. I mean, I don't know. That word excitement, I mean, I think that's why you keep him up there. You know, he's patient. At some point, you got to hope.
You can't hit him that way.
Yeah,
Right,
he's of no
exactly.
use unless you lead him off.
I mean, the answer to your question is no. He hasn't shown patience and discipline very successfully at the major league level. But if you look at his minor league stats, I mean, he's getting on base at a 340 clip, 413 in 2012 at single A before they bumped him up. I mean, he's got on base a lot at the lower levels, and it just hasn't translated yet into the big leagues. It takes time to, I mean, he's still, 23 years old? It takes time to learn at the big league level. He's still a young guy.
Did you see that 2-strike bunt that he put in the dugout last night?
I have no idea what he was doing.
It was at the beginning of the game. He was up. There were 2 strikes. He tried to push one to second base and almost hit the dugout.
We can't
You know,
go on at
I'll
all.
take what we're getting from Hamilton.
You will?
Right now, yeah.
At
This point in his career.
Well, I don't
He's
know.
on base once a game, basically. What's his on base now?
His on base right now is around 300.
300. So
Yeah.
you're getting on base once a game.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you can afford a leadoff hitter getting on base once a game. I know they can't get on. I know you can't get on base 2 and 3 times consistently. But if the stats say you're getting on base once a game, to me that's a problem.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. And I think he's got to get on base more for them to really be successful. You also have to look at the defense he brings to the table. I mean, he's got the best range of any center fielder you're going to find anywhere. I mean, he is outstanding. If he's not a Gold Glover, it's just because that Juan Lagares guy for the Mets is just like unbelievable.
Zach Kozar, what about that guy? He's 7th, 8th guy. I would have never thought he would hit the ball as well as he's doing right now. He's out of this world right now.
Well, his misses are better than his hits last season. Well, they really are.
Right.
I mean, he's not popping up as much. He's grounding out. When he grounds out, he's hitting the ball pretty well.
Do you move him up? I mean, I don't know.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I think you could if there was a spot in the 2-hole, which is what Dusty did a few years ago. But not moving Votto out, and I don't think, even though Kozar did lead off when he was in the minors, when he played with the bats, I don't think you can move him. I think they got to leave Billy Hamilton there and hope. But
Yeah,
I
think so too.
You know, and you know the next guy is going to get on base too. But I think if you look, it's Frazier and Votto the first week, and then it's Frazier. Less of Frazier, about the same of Votto and Phillips in the second week.
Yeah.
But it's basically been 2 to 3 guys so far this minute, and that's it. And that's again, that's another problem.
Yeah. Well, and you haven't had Mesoraco because he's hurt,
Right.
and then you've got the fact that Bruce really he's got a little bit of power, but he hasn't hit the ball the way he needs to.
Yeah, that winning streak last week was fool's gold. It seems like.
Who was that catcher they brought up? What was his name? Shipwreck? What's his name?
Skipworth.
From G.I. Joe,
Kyle Skipworth.
Skipworth. That's it. Yeah. But I mean, so they bring him up. They don't bring Tucker Barnhart up.
Yeah.
And that, to me, that was like because Barnhart spent some time here, unless his major league clock is close to, ending its tick. But my point is again, it points to the lack of depth in this organization. There's just nothing. There's nowhere to go unless the guys you have here can get it done.
Well, they were crippled by a weird kind of like little nuance with the rule that like when you send someone down, when you option someone, you can't call them back up for 10 days unless there's an injury. So because they didn't put Mesoraco on the disabled list, anyone that they optioned at the end of spring training, they couldn't recall. So that's why they had to pull in some guy who wasn't even on the 40-man roster.
That's why Barnhart's not here.
That's why Barnhart's
but
not here.
isn't that what you pay the front office to do, to know those rules? I mean, that's a situation you put yourself into.
Yeah, but
that's not something that just happens to you.
Yeah, but you can't anticipate that Mesoraco in the first week of the season is going to have something wrong with his hip, and you're going to need another catcher on the team.
I knew that.
See?
No, I
Ken,
agree about that.
Walt needs an assistant. Walt
Yeah.
needs an
About that.
assistant, and Ken's the man.
I
Well,
agree
we know
about that.
we know that the Cardinals are always going to be a tough team to beat. But what's with this? What's with losing to the Cubs? Okay, I don't care about the new manager or whatever. That's just terrible. What happened?
Well, when you got pitching giving up 7 runs in one game and 5 the next to anybody, I don't care where you're playing, you're probably not going to win. Is this team capable, the Reds I mean, of scoring consistently 6 runs a game? And the answer to that question, I think, is no. So you give 7 up when Leake's on the mound, you give 5 up when Marquis on the mound, and you're pretty much cooked at that point.
Right.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think the Cubs are a much better team. I think we can't overlook them and say the Cubs are the laughing stock of the NL Central. I mean, I watched.
Better than the Reds, though?
I don't know if they're better than the Reds.
Okay.
I mean, the Reds should still take care of business against the Cubs, and they have
exactly.
owned the Cubs at Wrigley until the last 2 series, the end of last year and this year, beginning of this year. But
they should have won. They should have won 2 out of 3.
They should have won 2 out of 3.
Both
and
the last 2 series that they lost, they should have won 2 out of 3.
With any decent relief pitching, they would have won 2 out of 3 against the Cardinals and 2 out of 3 against the Cubs.
Right.
And those are the series, though, that we look back, in the end of August, and we're like, why didn't we get those? Why didn't we get that? So take 2 or 3. Those are the ones now. They're like, we should have, could have. But I tell you what, we don't make the playoffs. We look at those teams we should beat, and it's heartbreaking.
But you just wonder if all of this doesn't come back to average anyway. I mean, Jason Marquis, God bless him, he hasn't thrown a pitch since 2013. So, as you mentioned, the Marquis on the other night compared to the Marquis over the weekend are 2 different things. I think that's what you're going to get. I mean, you're talking about a 4th or a 5th guy in a rotation. You're basically talking about, on most teams, 500 pitchers.
Yeah. If Marquis could be a 500 pitcher, I think the Reds would be ecstatic with that.
Oh, I think so, too.
I'm not sure he can be.
I have an idea.
Good. I like your
All
ideas.
right. My idea with Marquis, and let's say even Kevin Gregg, let's open up a sandwich shop together. We can do it downtown next to the stadium. I'll be a partner in that. I got a couple bucks I'll throw at that. I think they could probably be a bigger partner in that. I think they have probably more funds.
Why a sandwich shop?
Well, I think there's a need for a sandwich shop down there by the Reds ballpark.
Mr.
And I also
Satin is
think,
a connoisseur of sandwiches.
and I also think that they would be great at serving up, some sandwiches, some meatball sandwiches, and these kind of things.
You know, Johnny Rocket's closed. There's an
right
open
there.
There's an open
Kevin's
spot.
right, Marquis Jason, let's do it. Let's open a sandwich shop right there, man. Let's do it.
You know the thing about Greg and
This is falling off.
What's that?
Well, I'm just saying we've digressed a little bit, but that's
Oh.
okay. Continue.
No, but think about it.
Career
Downtown,
changes and investments.
Where
Okay.
on
That's what I'm saying,
on the
though.
banks do you find a sandwich shop?
Exactly.
You go to the Art House, you're talking about $10, $15 for an
Yeah.
entree.
There's
Right.
a Jimmy John's down there, I think.
You know
On
what?
the banks?
I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, I think there is.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. I think I've gotten one there.
But if
Yeah.
Jason Marquis is going to sign your sandwich, we're on to something there. You know what I mean? I think that's what I'm saying.
They'll be
get-
lined up
and
all
we'll
the
make
way to the
aprons,
ballpark.
We'll make aprons. We'll have everything, like gloves.
Maybe
got-
he could throw it to you.
Exactly. That's good. I
I
like
got the
that.
name for the place.
What's that?
Marquee Attraction.
There it is. Right there. Done.
How about
Going,
that?
going, going.
I think they should have some time, though. Hopefully, Brian Price gives them some time here to open a sandwich shop.
How about
'cause-
the 8th inning?
Yeah, right, exactly.
doesn't open until the
6th,
end,
7th, 8th inning, yeah, right
Yeah.
there.
Well, good.
We haven't. There's been a lot of bad things, but one thing that's finally come back to the fore is Joey. Do you think the 2-hole is the answer to this whole situation? I mean, and is it just because Hamilton had a good week?
No, I honestly, he begged Dusty Baker to let him hit in the 2-hole, and Baker consistently said no. He has lobbied for this for a long time. I think the best thing, what's going on with Joey is, if you noticed, Frazier hit well behind him in the first week, and Phillips has hit well behind him in the second week. Now, I'm not a big believer in protecting batters and things like that, but I do think you'll see better pitches if there's somebody behind you that could get you into trouble as well. Now, who knows how long it lasts, but I think there's something going on there.
No, I agree completely, but I think we can't discount the fact that Joey Votto looks like he's actually healthy for once. I mean, if you just watch the way he moves around the field, so I was watching, I think, the Monday night game, and even my wife is like casually not even really watching that closely. It's like, wow, Joey Votto looks like he's lost some weight. He looks
That's
like
what I
he's moving
thought, too.
around better.
That's what I thought, too. He looks
I mean,
slimmer.
he just looks like a different ball player, and I think that's what we're seeing, as much as the fact that people around him are actually producing now.
Sort of.
If you look at his numbers, he's producing very consistently to what he did in 2010 and 2012 when he was a star. His on-base percentage, his slugging percentages are very, very similar to what they were in those 2 years. And then you just have to look at the years when he really struggled and hope that that's just an injury and that he can get past that and be the player that he was.
And he shaved his head.
And he shaved
Well,
his
I don't
head.
want to say anything, because I mean, but it just seems like that it's almost like Samson in reverse. That he shaved his head
Wow.
and he's healthy.
Yeah.
Now you
We're
talk
getting
about
biblical now,
You talk
but
about
okay.
you talk about your wife. My wife said that she was at the Kroger in Madeira, and she said that she thought she saw Joey Votto, but she wasn't sure because he didn't have any hair. I said, you probably did, because he shaved his head.
Yeah.
Not necessarily at the Kroger while he was shopping, but I think there could be something going on there.
Maybe all the Reds should shave their heads.
Yeah.
Maybe we could.
Why not? Start a trend and just ride it and see what we can do with it.
What could Jason Marquis do if he shaved his head?
Oh,
Think about it.
The challenge has been thrown out there to Jason Marquis.
Andrew McCutcheon got rid of his dreadlocks.
Yeah.
There could
He's
be something
faster
to
now,
do.
too, with that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, yeah. Wind resistance.
I was going to say that. I'm
Oh.
glad you brought that up. But I think to answer your question, well, we might have gotten off on a tangent there. But I think to answer your question, I think
That's
Joey
our
Votto
format.
hitting in the 2-hole is great, as long as you got some people that can follow him. And Phillips has
Right.
been terrific this week.